Leo, let's just say it. May doesn't come quietly. It arrives like a slow-building crescendo, rising into a month that asks for nothing less than your full, fiery self. But here's the twist. It doesn't demand attention. It invites you back into the spotlight, on your own terms, in your own way, for your own reasons. Because this isn't about applause anymore. It's about alignment. The first half of the month might catch you a little off guard. There's emotional work to be done, reflections to sit with, some hidden frustrations that rise to the surface, especially in relationships, where truth demands space and pretense begins to wither. And for a moment you might wonder, am I still who I thought I was? But by the time the sun moves into Gemini on May 20th, something shifts. You begin to feel lighter, bolder, more connected to the creative spark you've been quietly missing. Your confidence doesn't return in a roar. It returns in a hum, steady and magnetic. You remember that even when things are uncertain, you are not lost. You are simply evolving. This is a month where passion leads and presence heals, where joy becomes a strategy, not a luxury, where you start creating the kind of life you don't need to escape from, and the world finally takes notice again. In May, something profound begins to shift in your relationship with ambition, not because you're losing your edge, Leo, but because you're refining your aim. The external validation that once fueled you, it's losing its grip. You're no longer performing success. You're defining it on your terms for your future. It starts subtly. A lingering dissatisfaction with tasks that used to thrill you. A restlessness around roles you've outgrown. You might look at your calendar and feel the quiet nudge. This doesn't reflect who I am anymore. That voice gets louder throughout the month. But instead of reacting impulsively, May teaches you to listen strategically. You're not being pushed to burn it all down. You're being invited to build something better, with intention, structure, and stamina. Whether you're employed, leading a team, self-employed, or somewhere in between, you begin to feel the difference between busyness and impact. And once you taste that clarity, you won't go back. Expect some sort of energetic pressure around May 14th to 15th. A deadline, a confrontation, a sudden pivot in leadership. It may feel destabilizing at first, but look closer. This is where your real power gets revealed. Not in how loudly you speak, but in how deeply you hold your vision. You may be called to take charge in a way that surprises even you. And not just as a manager or authority figure, but as a stabilizer, the one who doesn't panic, the one who sees past the noise, the one who, quietly and confidently, knows the next right move. That's your gift this month. Clarity under pressure. People notice. And the more grounded you stay, the more invitations come your way. Offers, collaborations, or unexpected praise from someone who sees your worth without you needing to sell it. For Leos building something independently, this is a golden window for long-range planning. You may refine your messaging, scale your systems, or realign your audience. The choices you make in May aren't flashy, but they're foundational. You're playing the long game now, and that makes you dangerous in the best way. Money-wise, this month isn't about sudden influxes. It's about leverage. You start to understand where your energy is being spent versus where it's being invested. And once that equation clicks, you begin to rearrange your professional life to reflect your evolution, not your fear. You may even surprise yourself with a bold ask, a raise, a restructure, a rebranding. And if the answer isn't yes, you'll know it's not rejection, it's redirection. Because you're no longer settling for being useful in places where you deserve to be celebrated. Leo, your career is shifting from spotlight-driven to soul-aligned. Not because you're fading, but because you're rising in a way that doesn't require constant applause to validate your brilliance. And that kind of confidence, it changes everything. There's a point every fire sign reaches when all the motion, output, visibility, and noise no longer energize. They exhaust. And for you, Leo, May brings that moment, not as a collapse, but as a call inward. This month, your nervous system becomes the authority, and its message is clear. The pace you've been keeping isn't sustainable, not if you want to create from wholeness instead of burnout. You might begin the month riding adrenaline, ideas, energy spikes, a sense that momentum is everything. But then something shifts. A moment of stillness becomes impossible to avoid. A conversation brings emotion to the surface. A missed meeting or a minor glitch stops your rhythm just long enough for your body to say, "Hey, are you okay?" And the answer isn't dramatic. It's real. I'm tired. But here's the beauty. You're not being punished. You're being repatterned. May invites you to examine the loops that have kept you in overdrive. The commitments you said yes to out of habit. The people you kept checking in on even though they never ask how you're doing. The belief that if you stop for 1 second, it'll all fall apart. That belief, it's ready to go. Around May 18th to 19th, a revelation lands, possibly in the form of a physical symptom, fatigue, tension, or emotional numbness. Or maybe it comes through a quiet weekend where nothing needs to happen. And in the silence, you feel yourself again. Not the curated version, not the productive machine, you. From there, you begin to build new rituals. Slower mornings, midday breaks, longer walks, meals you actually taste. Fewer screens, more air, less yesing, more no, spoken with kindness and without guilt. You may also explore somatic healing this month, modalities that bring you back into your body in a way that no talk therapy ever could. Breathwork, sound, movement, nature. Anything that reminds your system it's safe now, that you don't have to brace, that the tension in your jaw isn't your fault, it's a signal. And Leo, here's what's wild. The more you rest, the more inspired you become, because burnout has been blocking your brilliance. Overcommitment has been muting your creativity. And when you start reclaiming your space, mental, emotional, physical, your light doesn't dim. It brightens. You're not meant to be on all the time. You're meant to be fully present when you choose to shine. And that discernment, it's what makes your fire last longer than anyone else's. This month doesn't ask for performance. It asks for presence. Because the strongest you'll feel this May isn't when you're doing the most. It's when you're still and the world moves toward your energy instead of pulling it away. Let the quiet guide you back to your rhythm. There's a moment in every Leo's journey where earning stops being about applause and starts being about alignment. That moment, it arrives in May. And when it does, you'll know. This is the month you stop negotiating with scarcity. Money, for you, has always been layered. It's never just been about numbers. It's about recognition, freedom, expression, sometimes even love. And this month, those layers start to unravel. Not because you're failing, but because you're finally ready to see what your money story has been built on and rewrite the script. May asks, where have you been trading emotional labor for financial crumbs? Where have you convinced yourself that just being passionate about your work means you shouldn't ask for more? Where have you over-delivered, hoping someone else would notice your worth so you wouldn't have to claim it for yourself? Around May 20th to 22nd, there's a reckoning, a raise conversation, a contract revision, a client interaction that doesn't sit right. And in that moment, you no longer flinch from your own value. You ask. You adjust. You let someone walk away rather than undersell yourself one more time. This doesn't mean your income explodes overnight, but something far more important happens. You begin to trust yourself with abundance. You stop treating your success as accidental or unstable. You stop holding your breath between paychecks. You start acting like someone who is allowed to be well supported, well paid, and well rested. For some Leos, this means a bold restructuring. You might finally raise your rates, stop giving your work away for exposure, cancel a collaboration that costs more energy than it brings in, or finally commit to building a revenue stream that feels real, not rushed. And if you've been afraid of being too much, May gently burns that fear away. Because here's the truth. When your value is rooted in being yourself, there's nothing to perform. There's just resonance. And the people who are meant to pay you, partner with you, promote you, they'll find you faster when you stop hiding and underpricing and overthinking. There's also healing here. You may revisit old financial patterns from your family line, scarcity mentalities, feast or famine cycles, guilt about success. But instead of recycling them, you alchemize them. You understand them without inheriting them. And that shifts everything. This is the month you begin building not just wealth, but a new nervous system around wealth. One that doesn't spike with every bank notification. One that doesn't depend on constant hustle to feel safe. Leo, your resource flow is expanding. Not because you're doing more, but because you're receiving better. Because you finally believe that what you give the world is not just beautiful, it's valuable. There's a moment in every Leo's journey where earning stops being about applause and starts being about alignment. That moment, it arrives in May. And when it does, you'll know. This is the month you stop negotiating with scarcity. Money, for you, has always been layered. It's never just been about numbers. It's about recognition, freedom, expression, sometimes even love. And this month, those layers start to unravel. Not because you're failing, but because you're finally ready to see what your money story has been built on and rewrite the script. May asks, where have you been trading emotional labor for financial crumbs? Where have you convinced yourself that just being passionate about your work means you shouldn't ask for more? Where have you over-delivered, hoping someone else would notice your worth so you wouldn't have to claim it for yourself? Around May 20th to 22nd, there's a reckoning, a raise conversation, a contract revision, a client interaction that doesn't sit right. And in that moment, you no longer flinch from your own value. You ask. You adjust. You let someone walk away rather than undersell yourself one more time. This doesn't mean your income explodes overnight, but something far more important happens. You begin to trust yourself with abundance. You stop treating your success as accidental or unstable. You stop holding your breath between paychecks. You start acting like someone who is allowed to be well supported, well paid, and well rested. For some Leos, this means a bold restructuring. You might finally raise your rates, stop giving your work away for exposure, cancel a collaboration that costs more energy than it brings in, or finally commit to building a revenue stream that feels real, not rushed. And if you've been afraid of being too much, May gently burns that fear away. Because here's the truth. When your value is rooted in being yourself, there's nothing to perform. There's just resonance. And the people who are meant to pay you, partner with you, promote you, they'll find you faster when you stop hiding and underpricing and overthinking. There's also healing here. You may revisit old financial patterns from your family line, scarcity mentalities, feast or famine cycles, guilt about success. But instead of recycling them, you alchemize them. You understand them without inheriting them. And that shifts everything. This is the month you begin building not just wealth, but a new nervous system around wealth. One that doesn't spike with every bank notification. One that doesn't depend on constant hustle to feel safe. Leo, your resource flow is expanding. Not because you're doing more, but because you're receiving better. Because you finally believe that what you give the world is not just beautiful, it's valuable. Home has never just been a structure for you, Leo. It's an environment, a stage for rest, creativity, safety, and even your sense of identity. When your home energy is off, everything feels a little more chaotic. And this May, you're finally ready to get honest about the spaces, physical, emotional, and energetic, that no longer reflect who you are. You begin the month carrying a subtle tension in your environment. Maybe your space is too crowded, too quiet, too connected to a past version of you you've outgrown. Maybe the people you live with are pulling you into roles you're done performing. Or maybe you're the one filling every room with energy you don't actually want to live in anymore. Either way, the walls are listening, and around May 23rd to 24th, they speak back. There may be a moment, a triggered memory, a flash of insight, a conversation with someone you live with that brings it all to the surface. This doesn't have to be a dramatic move-out situation, although for some Leos, that's exactly what happens. It could be more internal, the quiet decision to stop tolerating clutter, chaos, overfunctioning, emotional labor that you never agreed to do. Because what May makes clear is this: you're allowed to feel good in your own home. You don't have to earn that right by keeping everyone happy first. This could show up as a weekend spent rearranging your room, painting a wall, or purging a closet you've been avoiding for years. It could be as simple as choosing music over background TV, candles over harsh lights, self-expression over neutral aesthetics. Because you're home, it's not just where you sleep, it's where you recover your energy. And you need that now more than ever. For those healing family relationships, this is a potent time. You may hear from someone unexpected. A parent might soften. A long-held grudge might finally feel ready to release. And for others, it might mean drawing a line in the sand, not as a punishment, but as a form of self-respect. Boundaries, after all, are love in action. Some Leos will find themselves dreaming about places far from where they live, a different city, a slower pace, a different climate. These dreams aren't random. They're data. Your intuition is whispering. Your next home might look different. Don't ignore that voice. It's trying to guide you to a version of safety you haven't fully felt yet. This month, home becomes less about perfection and more about permission. The permission to rest, to create, to cry, to laugh, to play music too loud, to take up space, to finally stop curating peace and just live in it. Let your space evolve with you. Let it become a mirror of your current truth, not your past survival mode. Because when your home starts feeling more like you, everything else in your life aligns faster. There's a rhythm that returns to you in May, Leo, a rhythm you almost forgot. It's the rhythm of joy without a deadline, beauty without a filter, movement without escape. And this month, you don't just remember it, you move with it. The second half of May, especially after the sun enters Gemini on May 20th, feels like a long-awaited inhale. You're done with the emotional processing, the heavy recalibrating, the deep work. Now your body and spirit are ready to stretch, play, flirt, roam, express, explore, to live again. Let's begin with beauty. Because for Leo, it's never been about vanity, it's about vibration. How your presence speaks before you open your mouth, how your clothes move when you walk into a room, how your scent, your smile, your silhouette make you feel like the main character in your own life story. This month, you're called to reclaim your aesthetic, not to impress, but to remember who you are. You might finally try the bold haircut, wear the dress you once saved for someday, or stop hiding the version of yourself that's always wanted to be seen as is. Beauty becomes ritual, not just for others' eyes, but for your own healing. When you wear what feels like you, when you treat your skin, hair, body, and space with reverence, you stop apologizing for your light. You shine, and people don't just notice. They respond. Then there's travel, or at the very least, the urge to move, to go somewhere unfamiliar, to see a skyline you've never seen, to walk streets without knowing where they end. Around May 25th to 27th, your wanderlust spikes. Maybe it's an invitation, a spontaneous road trip, or just a compelling urge to pack a bag and drive with no destination in mind. This isn't about escape. It's about expansion, about remembering that the world doesn't stop at your current zip code, that there are people, ideas, energies, and versions of yourself waiting for you in other cities, other landscapes, other languages. Even if you can't physically travel this month, you find ways to shift your reality. New bookstores, new playlists, new routes to familiar places. You read things that stretch your beliefs. You surround yourself with people who speak in inspiration, not complaint. And in doing so, your energy softens, lifts, opens. Creatively, this is where the magic happens. Not because you're trying to monetize your joy, but because you let it speak. You dance more, laugh longer, take photos for the love of it, write things no one else needs to see. Art for art's sake. Life for your sake. This is what joy looks like when it's not being performed. It's what confidence looks like when it's not defended. It's what travel, beauty, creativity, and pleasure feel like when they're not scheduled or justified. They're just lived. Leo, you've earned this return to the sparkle, to the softness, to the stretch. Let it in. Let it move you. Let it become your new normal. Because joy isn't what you get after healing. It's what heals you.